Hey, hi, hello everyone. How is it going? Welcome to our session. Connect your IoT data to HoloLens 2 with Azure Digital Twins and Unity. My name is Brent Jackson. Here is my friend Adam. I want to say hello, Mr. Adam.
Hello, yep, Adam here. I'm working with Brent to hopefully go through this awesome module with you guys regarding the IoT and HoloLens stuff. Really looking forward to it. How's your day been today, Brent? How's build been for you, mate?
It's been pretty good. I watched Sam George's keynote. That was pretty awesome. I also
Awesome.
took, I was a chat moderator in our Ask the Experts session earlier today as well, which was a lot of
Ah,
fun.
awesome. Sounds
Yeah,
great. Yeah, I've been checking out a lot of the other sessions as well, like Bicep and all these awesome things. So
nice,
yeah,
nice.
awesome.
Cool. Let's see.
So what are we
So
doing today? What are we
go
doing
ahead.
today?
I don't know. You tell me.
So today we'll be going through the a Great Learn module that we've been building to help learn about connecting your IoT data to a HoloLens application or HoloLens device even with Azure Digital Twins and Unity kind of helping glue this all
Mm.
together. So there's this awesome part behind it with Azure and Digital Twins and IoT devices flowing the data through, and then that ends up on our HoloLens via a Unity application.
Yeah, and feel free to follow along. You can see this link here. Follow along with us. Please don't try to complete this module while we are doing it live. I guarantee you, you will have a better time if you just hang out with us for the next little bit and then go do this on your own.
Yep, it's not
Now,
going anywhere. So,
yeah,
you know.
exactly. I'm going to show you guys a little video and kind of talk over what we're going to do today, just to give you a little teaser of where we're going to end up at the end of this session. All right. So built on top of OpenXR, the application we are showing you how to build consists of Azure Digital Twins data connector prefabs, this Maps SDK for Unity project from the Microsoft Garage, and some UI elements built on top of MRT components, and some 3D assets of windmills because we are building a holographic digital twin of a wind farm today. So
Aha.
you can easily drag all this into your scene and configure it to view your data in context. Once you get all this assembled, you can see your digital twin interface to your wind farm, as you can see here. Now, scenario-wise, according to our wind farm subject matter expert, when an alert comes in from a windmill, they send a reset command to the turbine to see if it goes away or if it comes back, we know it wasn't an anomaly, maybe there's something wrong, and we actually need to dispatch a technician to go check it out. This demonstrates the ability to not only observe your IoT data in context, but to also take action on it. And this sample showcases how to build this bidirectional interaction with any data from anywhere in the world, heads up and hands free on HoloLens 2.
That sounds pretty neat. So we're building a bunch of windmills and we're streaming that data through to our HoloLens device. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. We've had a good time building it. Yeah, and this is actually, so this is a module that is a part of a full learn path. The one we're covering today is called Connect IoT Data to HoloLens 2 with Azure Digital Twins. It's this last one on the right. So it is the fourth in this four-part learn path. The first three are kind of there to help you get started. If you're new to Unity, this is a great place to start. We'll help you set up your project correctly, kind of get you going with building 3D scenes, and then configuring your 3D assets. For today, we're going to, skip over that and just get to the meat and the bits of this. This section is an intermediate section because of all the Azure integration. But yeah, so if you want, you can jump in on this and just do this one module if you're pretty comfortable and confident with Unity, or you can get started at the beginning if you want to follow the whole path.
For sure. And today's session is live and interactive. We are here. We're doing this live. It's going to be live demos and everything. So all the fun that comes with that. So
Yeah,
feel free to say hi to us. Ask some questions in the chat. We've got an awesome bunch of experts and moderators in there that can help you out with all kinds of things. I already see some messages coming in from people around the world. Someone from the UK and Manchester. Someone from Auckland, my hometown, Kia ora. Welcome from New
nice.
Zealand. That's awesome. All kinds of cool people.
And hello,
Seattle.
Tim. Yeah.
Yeah.
George. Oh, I should scroll down. Oh, there's a lot more people. Yeah. Denmark,
All
almost midnight there. Well, you know
them.
what? Thank you for joining us from Denmark. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you staying up late with us.
Yeah. Well, make it worth your while, and hopefully, on the other side of this,
Yeah,
we'll build something.
we'll do our best. We'll do our best. It is long. We'll see. Cool. All right. So if you are going to do this on your own, then there are some prereqs that you're going to need to grab before you get going. So for starters, you need a Windows 10 PC. You're going to need at least 10.0.18 blah, blah, blah of the Windows 10 SDK to get going. You're going to want the Unity Hub with Unity 2020.3.0F1 at the minimum. Anything after that's totally fine. We recommend building on the LTS versions because we're using OpenXR, which targets 2020. That's why we want you to start there. You're going to want the mixed reality feature tool, which will help you get going with integrating the mixed reality toolkit and our OpenXR plugin for HoloLens. And you're going to need a Bing Maps developer account, it's free to get. It's not that bad. I'll show you a link in the project. You can click to get it later. And then there's a samples project that you can download from GitHub. It's all covered in the module, but that's where the project that we're hosting today is going to live that you can go interact with. You will also need Visual Studio. Adam, why don't you tell them about the other stuff we'll need for the Azure side of things here?
So for the Azure side of life, we're going to need Visual Studio installed with a C++ workload, desktop development. So the reason for that is if you want to build your HoloLens app, that's what you need to kind of build it into an app for there. You're going to want to be a full user on your Azure Active Directory. We are doing some RBAC, some role-based access control, due to the way Digital Twins provides access. So you're going to need the ability to be able to configure those RBAC roles there. You'll need an Azure subscription to put your Azure resources in, of course. That's something very important. And Azure CLI. And more importantly, you want the latest version of Azure CLI. We are using some pretty neat stuff that's only really in the latest. So please upgrade if you already have it installed and make sure it's there.
Just out of curiosity, for the Azure subscription, I know you can get a free trial of Azure. Can you use that for this module?
Oh yeah, this is where we're not spinning up anything ginormous. Almost everything we're turning on is event driven as well. So realistically, everything is going to be quite cheap to get this running in your subscription. There's going to be no worries at all. Definitely look into a trial if you don't have one already.
Awesome. Good to know. Thank you. Cool. So for a little bit of an introduction, so visualizing assets and in immersive settings permit users to experience the right data in the right context at the right time. I kind of already introed what we're going to do today, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but just want to let you know, this is kind of your first step into getting involved with our metaverse stack for, pulling in this Azure Digital Twins and viewing it inside of mixed reality. Really excited about it. And actually so excited, I think we should get going with connecting telemetry data. What do you think?
Yes. So we need a place to begin and we need data to work with and we need to get that data from somewhere. So we kind of alluded to our, Brent and I have got a massive wind turbine farm, of course. Right, Brent? We're running our giant wind turbine farm and we need to monitor it really well. So we use Azure Digital Twins to help us with that. So we have our IoT data streaming through. And then we contextualize that data in Digital Twins. Digital Twins basically helps us represent these data sets, these objects, these wind turbines in a digital sense. So we can contextualize them and make sense of all this data together in a larger experience. What we're doing today is very much a wind turbines in a location. However, we could associate much, much more with this and create almost like an ecosystem inside our digital twin and really get huge amounts of control out of this, but we do need a great way to visualize it,
That's true.
And we to the title, we use Unity, but Brent, how are we visualizing this?
So we're going to use Unity and we're going to use scriptable objects to kind of pull in that data that we're grabbing from ADT. Spoiler alert, it comes from a service called SignalR, and we pipe that in through URL into Unity. And then from that, we can feed it to multiple sources. So that's kind of where the data likes to live. I'll try and show that to you later at the end if we have some time. But, over here on the left, you can see we have this UI panel, or I guess I should say down there on the far side, you can see we have the UI panel. And so we have our data that's coming from our IoT sensor from our wind farm. We are using, a simulator because, not everyone is lucky enough to have their own wind farm. So, we're going to use a simulator today to show you data coming from there into Azure Digital Twin, as Adam was showing a little bit. And it goes in there, and then it can go to multiple places once it's that scriptable object. So you can see here it's going into temperature, wind speed, rotor speed. And then in the middle, you see the map focusing. So we have it so like when you click on these UI elements, it'll it'll pull you to the windmill so you know the context of like which windmill am I looking at. Sometimes these wind farms are built on really interesting topographical terrain, and so you might be getting weird data from one windmill but not another. Then you realize like that one's like in a gully that has a lot of like fast wind moving through or something like that.
And one thing I wanted to mention as well, Brett, at the start we showed a video and you were kind of with a HoloLens and going through it, but this image on the right, it's kind of got like a black window and a black screen. It looks a little different. So just before we begin, do I need a HoloLens to do this demo?
So you don't need a HoloLens to do this demo. You do need a HoloLens to fully experience like the benefit of this demo. Mm-hmm. We do have an input simulator built into Unity. So as you're getting going developing this, you can get started, after this session. Well, after build, you should pay attention to the rest and then just spend your entire weekend working on this session. No, that's not true. But yeah, so inside of the simulator, sometimes it has a black background if it's simulating what it's like on a HoloLens, because there's nothing rendered there. And then sometimes you'll see like a skybox in the middle here if it's like our OpenXR backend where it, depending on what device it goes to, it changes the background to be there or not.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So we'll probably see all that as we go, right, in Unity.
Yeah. I'll show it to you.
Awesome. But I guess before we even get to build our front end app, we need to get the Azure stuff running.
Right, exactly.
And it's quite a large back end, so there's a lot of resources involved. But we've made this quite simple by providing as part of the Learn Path an ARM template or Azure Resource Manager template. So we use a lot of services to link this together. You've heard me say things like IoT Hub, Digital Twins, SignalR was even mentioned by Brent. There's a lot of little pieces that join together to create this application. And what we've done is we have built a template for you to run, and we'll run that today. We'll build it up today, and I'll show you how the infrastructure is built, and we'll go through some of the architecture in a second as well. But that's part of this module, so you won't need to know too much about how it's built. It's a great starting point on just getting your feet wet and getting, looking on how this is all clicked together. And on top of that, not only are we using Azure Resource Manager, but we're using Bicep templates. So if you haven't heard the good word, Bicep is an awesome way to define your infrastructure as code. So originally ARM templates were done in JSON. It was quite a long experience, let's say, to pass and write, test and do. So there is an awesome DSL on top of ARM called Bicep. There's actually some sessions at Build. You should check them out. If you search Bicep in the session list, probably find them. Yeah, and as you can see, like I've just put a quick example here of a storage account. This is a quick, small storage account. It's a lot easier to pass as a human being for deploying and building infrastructure as code. So our backend is also built in Bicep, which is why you need the latest Azure CLI, because it comes with Bicep as part of that.
Yeah, this is nice. I can look at this and it kind of just makes sense. It's easy to read here and understand what's going on.
Awesome. So what I'll do, I'll take a quick diversion. We'll go over the architecture very quickly about what we're actually building in this ARM template or this Bicep template.
So this is a lot of the things you mentioned earlier on like that long list of the items that we're building with the ARM template. And here's how they get stitched together with the ARM template via the Bicep language.
You've got it. So we have Brent and I's awesome wind farm on the left here that the IoT devices are generating from. Yep, out the back. I would show you, but I can't move my webcam. I go from the IoT Hub. So we have a bunch of devices in IoT Hub, and they're representing all of our wind turbines. We have a couple of them. Every single time we receive some kind of telemetry or event, that will trigger an event via Azure Event Grid, which will allow a function to populate digital twins. Once the data is in digital twins, we have another function. So now the data is in digital twins. It's being represented against a twin or an object, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Okay.
That object, when that telemetry comes through, another event grid triggers, this time the one listening to digital twins, and it will tell SignalR via another Azure function, hey, turbine number 98 has a new nacelle degree direction or something. And then it will expose that data and any kind of listing clients will act upon it or listen in on it or review it. In this case, it's our HoloLens application, which should hopefully be rendering that status of the turbine.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. And so you're saying that that all comes from Azure SignalR, which kind of collects that and sends it over to the HoloLens.
Yeah, it's kind of like the broadcaster. So Digital Twins is like so IoT Hub is receiving all the data. Digital Twins is contextualizing that data, and then SignalR is broadcasting that data to anyone that's listening. So
I really like that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for putting that together for me.
And then the inside Digital Twins, we use what's called a DTDL, or a Digital Twin Definition Language. And this is how we define what our objects or our twins are supposed to look like. So in this,
you see like the contents are, we have like the type is property name and the string, the schema is a string. So I would think that, my name, I have a property as the name of the item and the string, therefore that is what that name is going to be. That makes sense.
Yep. So we can have properties and telemetry. So we use both. And inside the Git repository that we have a very a nice wind turbine model for you with a bunch of telemetry and properties with it. So you can use that as a starting point if you wanted to build your own model or edit the wind turbines how you see fit. It's a great starting place there to do.
Nice. That sounds good. Well, what do you say we get started with checking some of the stuff out?
Let's start
demo land.
Let's start building. So, like I mentioned before, we need infrastructure before we're allowed to play with Unity. We need something to listen to. We need something to broadcast. We need objects. So we're going to go through the list of things here. We're going to retrieve the code from GitHub. We're going to log into Azure CLI. We're going to set some variables, create an app registration. We're going to then set some more environment variables and then create the infrastructure and the resource group. So what I'm going to do now is take over here.
Go for it.
And start doing some stuff. Great. So what I've done is I've kind of started us off today at the repository itself.
Yes.
So this is where we're keeping all of the ARM template, the device simulator, and the Unity code itself. So this link is in the Learn module, so don't worry about copying it down now. The link still will be there. I'm just showing you this is where you start, and this is where you're going to need to start your journey when you do this module, and you'll be cloning this repository.
Sounds good.
So I've already cloned it, as you can see here, and I've already logged into Azure as well. So I'm already authenticated. What I need to do is start deploying this infrastructure. So there's a couple things we need to do first.
Okay.
The very first thing we need to do is create some environment variables.
And what do those environment variables do?
So those environment variables, those are just going to be the name of the project and the name of the application registration we're going to be using, because we kind of want our names to be pretty unique, just in case someone else has a name of something like that.
Right.
This is just a way that we can create everything with the same name and keep everything touched together. So we just set those. And then we'll be using those throughout the rest of this deployment of the ARM template.
Yeah.
The next command here is I'm actually creating an application registration. And very simply, an application registration is like a representation of our HoloLens device. I mentioned before that Azure Digital Twins uses RBAC, role-based access control, to get access. We need an object of some sort because our HoloLens is going to be an application. It's going to be there is a part of the module where it queries Digital Twins and asks for information about it. We need authentication authorization to do that. So we create an application registration, which is the logical representation.
Got it.
Okay, so once we've done that, these two commands look scary, but you don't worry too much about them, I promise.
What are these magical spells you're putting in here, or you're not going to tell me?
These commands, so the ARM template wants object IDs as the inputs to create those RBAC, to assign those permissions. Okay, so retrieving them before we do so. So you can see here one for the object ID, which is the application registration we just built, and then one here is for the user, because I need access to be able to view digital twins as well. If I want to go in without the HoloLens and take a look, this gives me access as well, or at least it will give me when I run the command. Next thing we need is a resource group. So we need a resource group here, which is like a logical grouping of resources in Azure.
Right. I see that this is located in, the location is set to East US.
Yes.
For these resource groups.
Yep.
Is there a reason you're locating in the East US? Are you in the East US?
No, I'm actually in Vancouver. But I'm putting it in East US because digital twins, you want to make sure everything is supported in your region and what location you're putting things in. So as part of the Learn module, we have a great link that shows you every region where all of these resources we're turning on is supported. East US is one of those regions, which is why I'm choosing it. But if you are going to change regions, just be mindful. You want to make sure that all where you're putting your resources, it's all supported. It's digital twins is there and other resources that you need are there. So just be mindful of where you put it. But I'm putting it in East US. So if you're not sure where to put it, East US is the way to go.
I looked earlier and I saw it's in most regions, and so maybe one of our lovely chat moderators would be so kind to place a link for any of our users that are like, I wonder if I live in a region. I wonder if I can get this from Denmark.
Good point. Good point. All right. So now we've kind of done our setup. We got our application registration. We set our variables. We've got our resource group. Now we deploy the template. So the first thing you'll notice is I need to be in the right directory. So see this ARM template directory? We want to make sure that we're in the right directory as Azure deploy.bicep.
Got it.
So when we run this command here, this command is going to use that file and then run a deployment. So AZ deployment, create file, Azure deploy bicep. So it's pointing at that bicep file. It's putting it in the resource group we built up above. And then it's supplying some parameters. So the name, that's the name we created before. The user ID, so that's that object ID we grabbed from the user, and the application registration object ID, same thing. So 1, 2, 3, and off it goes. So
Yay.
this deployment does a lot of things. It builds all the infrastructure. It builds, it also instantiates the Azure Digital Twin models inside, as well as deploy the code onto the functions. It's doing a couple of things. This takes about 10 minutes, give or take.
Oh,
so,
okay. Cool. I'm gonna go get some coffee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go grab a coffee. However,
just kidding.
Just kidding. Yeah, I'm not that crazy. I have built one already beforehand, so we're going to take a look at what it eventually turns into if we had 10 minutes to spare with you lovely people. So, my Zoom is a bit strange. Let's go to my resource group here. So this is MR54RG here that I've got. Has a bunch of resources in it. Let me just kind of here. So you can see here, there's digital twins. There is the event grids we're talking about that connect everything together. There is function app. There's an IoT hub. Again, all of these resources have been built from that deployment, right? So I did a deployment earlier today, and this deployment, I'll zoom in for the people at home.
Thank you.
This deployment here has deployed a bunch of resources here. So you can see all these resources being deployed through this template. And now we're basically good to go, and we're ready to start sending data from our wind turbines through to SignalR, and hopefully something on the other end will be listening. So let's take a second here to take a pause. Do you think we should do some knowledge?
Yeah, maybe a little palate cleanser with a knowledge check. Do you want to share the knowledge question, or do you want me to share?
I will indeed. Let me put it up on my screen here. So let's do it. Knowledge check. What do we got here, Brent?
I'll read it. What language is used to define a model in Azure Digital Twins? Is it A, DTDL? Is it B, Bicep? Or is it C, C#? And quick reminder, if you answer in the chat, you may win one of 0 prizes that we have available.
Oh, really?
Yes, no, we have no prizes. Sorry.
Um, well, if I was doing this, C sharp. Oh, I like that actually.
Yeah.
C sharp is a great language. I mean, Unity, .NET, all kinds of great things. You C
Lots
sharp.
of yeah. C sharp is one of the best. One of my favorites
Yeah, I don't think it's C sharp though. I think
anyway.
that's a little too rich for what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, okay. You might be right. Let's see. What about bicep? I know that if I have this ARM template, I use my bicep to deploy it.
Yeah, but I think that's
Or
for
sometimes my tricep. I don't know how the tricep language is going, but that could be a thing.
I think
Um,
that's for infrastructure though. So yeah,
so
I'm gonna go with A.
okay, okay. Is that because uh, I see digital and I see twins and I see define and I see language inside the top? So maybe
Yep.
DTDL.
Yep. So that's digital twin definition language. So
Ah,
DTTL for short. And
yeah.
just to put it simply, a DTTL is a model, right? And it's kind of like a class. If anyone's, done any kind of programming, object orientated, it's very similar to a class. So just like we saw before with that wind turbine diagram, it had a bunch of properties that we push in there, and we can instantiate hundreds of wind turbines based on this model that we build in my DTTL language.
Awesome. Well, I want to give a shout out to everyone in our chat that took a part in this. You guys are paying attention. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
we're good.
79%. Almost went up to 80, but then someone answered it wrong, so I went back down. 79% of people got that right. Well done, well done.
All right, let's
Ooh,
go to
another demo.
phase two. Yeah, so phase two. Phase two, we've now built our infrastructure. We now need to configure our simulator. So contrary to popular belief, we don't actually have a wind turbine.
Let us know in the chat if you have a wind farm or even just one wind turbine. Would love to hear
Yeah.
how that's working out for you, and if you end up using this project to monitor your wind farm.
Oh, I would love it. You should definitely let me know if you do that. So we're gonna grab some credentials from that app we deployed, or that infrastructure we deployed. We're going to configure our little device simulator with those objects that we grabbed from there, and then we're going to test it and run it, and hopefully see some traffic run through that great infrastructure we built. So I'm going to jump over to my Visual Studio Code here. And I'm going to use the infrastructure I built previously to do this. So this is this 5401 here. So first thing I need to do is set my environment variables to that 54 because
Nice.
I'm using more commands. Like normally when you were doing this in the learn module, you wouldn't do this. Because I'm kind of using more of those environment variables from before to allow us to run some more commands.
Got it.
So
are you using Visual Studio Code there?
yes, yep, this is Visual
Nice.
Studio.
Nice.
So, yep. So the first command I'm going to run is going to be to rip out some of these. In our deployment, we expose some values. So I'm just going to grab these values here.
Okay. Oh, yeah, from that file that you created earlier, I see.
Yeah, and I'm going to pipe them into this text file. And we'll see it appear here. You'll also see this app credentials. This is, if people were listening or reading or watching before, you may know what that is, but we'll look at that in a sec. So now I've got some stuff in here, and then another command I'm going to run is grabbing resource information out of the IoT hub. So this is the connection string that we will be using to both create the IoT devices in IoT hub, as well as send data to them.
Nice. Okay, cool. That's going to come up later.
Cool. So off they go. All right, so let's take a look at what we exported here. So we have our first block here, which is the ADT host name. So this is like the digital twin API kind of point. We'll need this later for both my side and for Brent's HoloLens application. There's other stuff here like SignalR. Brent will go into that later. But we're here for this connection string. So this string right here is what we're looking for. And we will need to add that into our simulator. The other set we have here is app credentials.txt. This text file was made way back when we created that application registration. We piped the output in here. Our simulator is kind of cheating a little bit because we use an alerting system to simulate a real alert, and the simulator just kind of like asks for a bit of a like, hey, Siglar, like how's the alert going? Is it succeeded? Has it failed? So in the real world, your simulator probably wouldn't go around to Azure Digital Twins like that. But in our simulated environment, we're kind of letting in our simulator to know what's going on behind the scenes, and it needs, again, RBAC access to access that, and we're using an application registration, the same one the HoloLens app uses to do so. So as part of the repo, you'll have this device simulator here, and there's 2 things you need to edit.
Adam, I don't know if you saw in the chat, Scott from Excel Energy actually happens to have hundreds of wind turbines. And yeah, he's going to show the demo around. Understand being able to connect to real data is not always the, that takes a little bit of process, but that's why we provide a simulator so that you can do this without having to also jump through the loops of connecting to your actual wind turbines just to get started.
I would love to see that, Scott. Like if you kind of have some wind turbines.
Yeah. Let us know if you get started and you have questions. Please let us know.
Please, that'd be brilliant.
We have 10 wind turbines in our simulator.
Yeah. So we have on line 20 here, we have this IoT Hub connection string from before. I've already populated it. I'm sorry, I'm cheating a little bit, but I promise you it's the same string. So we have the string here, which is the string from the, if we go back up here, this is this connection string here, the IoT Hub one.
Mm-hmm.
And the ADT instance URL, this is from the ADT hostname here on line 2. So that's the first 2 lines, line 20 and 21. So you'll edit those in. And then the second one you'll edit is the prop updater.cs here. And this is where you'll put your client ID, client secret, and tenant ID, which again come from the app credentials.txt. So client ID is going to be app ID.
Mm-hmm.
Secret going to be password. And the tenant is probably, is going to be.
Question number 3. What is the tenant going to be the tenant?
That'd be too hard. So once we've configured all of that, we can now run our simulator, and we should be able to see some traffic run through. And you're more than happy to kind of poke through this code. Again, this is all part of the Git repo. You can poke through, have a look. If you're saying, hey, I like the idea of this, but maybe rather than a wind turbine, I'd like to simulate maybe a boat or a bunch of machines or a fabrication plant. You can change all this to maybe edit those settings accordingly.
Nice.
So I'm in the same directory here. I'm just using the terminal to show the simulated data a little better rather than the small Visual Studio window. So it's a .NET console app. So all we need to do is just .NET run or press play if you're running Visual Studio. And then a bit of magic.
Turbine.
So you'll see it created a bunch of turbines. So it's either going to create the turbines that we have here, or
press any key to make wind blow.
Yeah. And then it's asking me to press any key. So I want to look. I think that one's the any key. So I'll press that one. And as you can see, I got a bunch of cool data here sending to my wind turbines, or sending from my wind turbines to IoT Hub. It turns out my wind turbine is just an awesome Surface Book. And there's a bunch of cool data in there. What do you see, Brent?
Let's see. I see the turbine ID. I see the time interval coming through. Mm-hmm. The description is okay, which is interesting. Wind speed, ambient. I'm assuming ambient is the temperature, and then rotor speed as well.
Okay.
Which is pretty good. Oh, and power. I see power at the end there as well.
Cool. So a couple of cool data points there. So let's kind of visualize that. So now that we've kind of got some cool data coming through, if we take a look at the resources, let me just zoom out here just a tad. So if we take a look at some of the resources here, let me take a look and we'll see some data traveling through. So if you remember our diagram before, Brent, we had signal R, and that was kind of broadcasting. But before that, we had that function.
Yeah.
And that function here is this broadcast one.
Right. Yeah, the function going up to signal R. Okay, guess.
Yeah. So this is when Digital Twins makes an event. Broadcast then says, event grid notifies our broadcast function, says, hey, like we've got some new telemetry for you, packaged neatly and contextualized by our friend at Digital Twins. And this broadcast function go, awesome. I'm going to tell my other friend, Signal R. I'm going to let him know that things are happening. So hopefully we should see some streaming data in here, which should show us end to end that our IoT devices are generating logs, which they are.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. Sweet.
So all of this is actually coming from Azure Digital Twins, and it's being exposed by that event grid. So events are being generated by event grid when something happens on Digital Twins, like new telemetry or new properties being added, and then that's being exposed by event grid. The function is then saying, hey, new stuff has happened. Let me tell Signal R. And as you can see, turbine 100 code description. Yeah. Okay. Wind speed, ambient rotor, similar to what we had before.
Right. This is a little easier to digest than just reading the data stream coming through.
Yeah. And if we had more models like that had relationships, we could create really complex, very in-depth analyses and expose a lot of data about a lot of different disparate systems using digital twins this way. In this demo, we're just looking at the wind turbines, but sky's the limit, really.
Totally. Awesome. Well, speaking of, this being an easier way to see the data coming in than just watching it flow through from our sources, do you think we should show them how to look at the data in an even simpler and more intuitive way on
Yeah, this is interesting, but it's nowhere near as cool as 3D. Mixed reality, right?
3D is cool, but this is fascinating. This is where all the magic, all the stuff is coming through.
I think HoloLens is magical, man. I can't wait to see what it looks like on the other side.
Awesome. Let's see. Do you want me to steal the screen back from you then?
Yes. You're.
Okay. Let's see. 1 second. Here I go. And can you see the stuff the setup the environment descriptions that we just did?
Boop. Yep, that's what we just did. That looks good. I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we just covered getting the app credentials, configuring the device simulator with the primary connection string for the IoT hub created by their own template, and then we configured that device simulator with the authentication keys created by the ARM template. Yep. So that now we can get going and connect this Azure Digital Twin that Adam was so kind enough to create for us to our Unity scene. And what we're going to do here is we're going to configure Unity to interact with this IoT data. We're going to add the operate menu prefab to our Unity scene. And then we're also going to add the ADT connection prefab asset to the Unity scene, configure it for incoming data for that data stream. And then also we're going to add this ADT turbine alert controller to our Unity scene and configure it to connect to the ADT REST API so we can close that loop and write back to the to that data to ADT and that data simulator. I'm also going to show you how to get the Bing Maps thing set up. That's covered in one of our earlier modules, but I think it's really interesting and it's a good place to get started. So going to just
before we continue, Brent, there's a question here from Kurt that I think I could actually very much ask as someone that's in a very similar skill set to him. And he's asked, what skills are particularly valuable to break into MR and HoloLens development? He says C#, domain knowledge, data visibility, or do you have to be artistic? As someone that comes from a infrastructure, Azure application development background, I have found, anecdotally, that this has been actually really easy to get into, and everything you've mentioned are all important skills. However, it's not like you need to be a master of all of them. Some people are stronger at making really elegant looking models. Some people are really strong at at programmatically making things look great. Some people know exactly what I want to show, like your domain knowledge. I think if you have any of those skills, the rest just kind of flow into place as you get stuck in. And this specific project has a lot of sandbox elements to it, which we'll go through near the end, that kind of help you fill in the gaps or say, I know a lot about, say, programming, but I'm not so much on the Unity side of things. How does Unity work together? What do you think, Brent?
I think everything you said is pretty spot on. But if I had to
Hmm.
call out the skill that I find to be particularly valuable, I would say it's an imagination.
Yeah.
Because like with mixed reality and HoloLens, like it's a whole new realm of computing. It's a new way to interact with data. That's just, we've made a lot of progress so far. We've found some really great use cases and ways to do it, but there's just like a lot of new stuff out there and the ways you can do it. And so really just like curiosity and imagination to say, what if I could interact with my data in this way or visualize something differently? I think that is going to get you started. Personally, I taught myself Unity. I went through like the old school like HoloLens Academy when HoloLens 1 first came out, and I'd never used Unity before then. And here I am now about to explain to you how to use Unity. So
Awesome.
yeah, all these skills are super helpful, but really just there's a lot of information out there to help you get going.
Yeah, it's an exciting place. I think this is so cool. So I think
Yeah,
I
yeah,
implore
too.
you, Kurt, to get involved just any way you can. It's so much
Yeah,
fun.
just go for it. Yeah, the input simulator's in there. There's a great developer community on Holo developer Slack channel, and then also our mixed reality developer program too is a good
Hmm,
place. I'll share a link at the end. Maybe someone in the chat will be nice enough to post it for me,
cool.
and then you can check that out and join us there and like start just ask people questions. Cool. All right. I am going to dive into Unity as well. Give you a quick overview. So
Yes, that would be
down here
good.
at the bottom, we have our project folder or project window where it's just basically like our file folder structure. You can see over here on the left, I've got my folder tree. And I'm going to start by grabbing this Bing Maps operate prefab and pull it into my scene. Center on it a little bit. And you can see it over here in this thing called the hierarchy. Now, the
Hmm.
hierarchy is a list of all the items that are inside of my scene. And,
Okay.
there's a light bulb in here somewhere. There it is, way up there. And
Oh, okay.
this is down here. You can always hover your mouse over the middle and press F to focus on whatever you want, which is, I think, pretty convenient.
That's a very
Um,
good button to learn. The moment
it's
I
a
learned
great
that
button to
button, it was
learn.
a good one.
I did not learn it for a long time. I was very happy when I found out about it. Um, and so yeah, now you see that. So this is the scene window. I mentioned that. This is where I
Hmm.
build my scene. You also notice like when I click on this item, this thing over here on the right called the inspector. There's a lot of information that pops up here. So this is where you interact with kind of some of the data that's behind the scenes on these prefabs that we've got over here. You'll notice that it says here, I need a developer key. Down here, if you don't have one, there's a button right here, sign up for a key at the Bing Maps Dev Center. You can just click that and it'll go through and you can learn how to do it. It's pretty easy. I've actually already done that. So going to paste mine in here and you'll see immediately I
Oh,
have Bing Maps working. Yeah, it's great. So that pulls in my latitude and longitude data that I've got down here. I've got my zoom level that I've got here. I have the zoom level range here, which is pretty cool. I can change that. For this module, we do 14 and 18. If I set it to like 1, then I can zoom all the way out, and it's like
huh.
literally the world. Yeah, here I'll put it in block format so you can see it's literally the world.
That's cool.
Hello world.
And this is
Oh
all
well.
dynamic, so when you put the lat
Yeah.
long in, it'll just show up.
Punk. Yep.
Cool. So whatever
Uh,
latitude and longitude I select, it'll just go there. That's
yeah.
pretty great considering we're building our wind turbine somewhere in the world.
Somewhere in the world. Yes. So I set that back to 14,
Hmm.
which is what it's supposed to be at. Anyway, I digress. So the first thing we did was to set up our Bing Maps. If you want to see it in action, you can just hit play here. This launches our game mode. This game window here, you'll see it in a second. And you can actually emulate. You can simulate having a HoloLens by
Hmm.
using our input simulator, not an
I see.
emulator, because it's definitely still running on my PC. But here you can actually kind of interact with it and see what's going on.
Okay. So this is like kind of similar to when we saw at the intro, you had like that like black screen or whatever. So you kind of get an
It
idea of
is.
how this is
It
going to
is.
be.
This is, the screen can be black here. I'm currently right now using our OpenXR profile. And so
Oh.
it provides the skybox because, this could go to HoloLens, it could go to Windows VR. anything. And I can zoom in here and check stuff out. WASD, Q&E, mouse, keyboard controls. If I hold down spacebar, I get this little hand that pops
Little
up,
hand.
yeah. And so now I can grab left mouse click and grab and check out my map. Yeah, and do all that. So anyway, that's just like a little view of kind of like where this is going to start going. You have these little chevrons in here, which are pretty cool, that kind of show you there's other windmills out in the distance if you want to check them out.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So back to here. I'm going to move this back to a cylinder because I like the little island that we've got here. And the next thing I want to add is going to be our UI. So I'm going to scroll down in my project folder to my UI prefabs, and I'm going to drag in this hand menu operate. This is just like a little hand menu that pops up next to your hand, so you can. It's kind of hard to see, kind of hard to zoom in exactly on. Basically, this is for resetting your scene and pulling up other windows. It pops up on your wrist when you twist it. But then more specifically, I have this operate scene UI. There it is.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff now.
Here's good stuff. And so this is our UI for interacting with our Azure Digital Twin data.
So I also see that, before you were moving the zoom up and down, you said you brought in the hand operator. You've got these other panels up here. How did you build these? Like, what's behind this?
Oh, that's a great question. So I am using, you'll also see up here this thing called the Mixed Reality Playspace and the Mixed Reality Toolkit. So I'm using the Mixed Reality Toolkit to build all this stuff. All of these UIs are built on top of MRTK components. And so there's a whole world of stuff you can learn about MRTK out there. It is our recommended, starting place if you want to get going with mixed reality. Get a Unity project, get the MRTK, and you are off to a good start.
So it kind of provides like a lot of boilerplate, like buttons and things that I can do.
Yeah, it provides all these buttons. It provides, there's all the hand interactions that you saw me doing. It can script those up for you. Since you asked,
yes,
I'll show you a couple on here. Inside the operate scene UI, if I click on this prefab, I click on one of these prefabs, you can see like this follow me toggle. This is a script, and you can turn this on, and then when you press this little button on the right, or you say follow me, press this button, this menu is going to just follow you around. It's super cool. And you can set like an auto follow distance for how far away you want it to follow from you. There's also another cool one in here is billboard. Billboard means if you turn this on, you can set a pivot axis so that it's always looking at you. No matter where you walk around it, the menu will be looking for you. I generally like to do like an XY billboard so it still stays vertical and doesn't like do all this Z stuff around.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, you're welcome to do this however you want.
And this is all MRTK stuff, all driven by. Awesome. That sounds like the place to start, I think.
Yes, exactly. So let's see.
So we've added in the menus.
Yep. Thank you. I've added in the menus. Now we need to connect it to ADT. So I'm going to go up here to my ADT prefabs folder. I've got these two prefabs here that are data connectors. I'm going to drag them both in here for now. Start with this first one. Here's where I put in that URL that you were describing earlier. That is going to be connecting to, it's coming from SignalR.
So you've got your wind farm over there.
Got my wind farm over here.
Awesome.
Here's my SignalR address going into it. And then I have this ADT turbine alert controller set up. And under my ADT connection info, you'll see it says none right there. Now, what I would need to do here is I like to store this under scriptable objects, Azure Digital Twins credentials. I already have one made, but I'll show you how to do it anyway. You can go up here to Assets, Create, Scriptable Objects, Credentials, ADT REST API Credentials. Here it is, REST API Credentials.1. You can see over here, this is where I would paste in that instance URL, client ID, secret, and tenant ID.
Yep.
And then
those are the ones that came from the deployment before. As we remember, the client ID, secret, tenant ID, and the URL, they all get spit out by that deployment step that I was doing earlier.
Yes, correct. And so then we click this little dot here, and we see all of the items that are available in our project to go in here. I'm going to go ahead and place this one that I already wrote in there, and there it is. And now I'm going to do two things. I'm going to initially start the project so that you can see it running without the data. And then I'm going to kick off the data simulator, and you'll see the data kind of come pouring in.
Cool.
All right, here we are. We have our wind farm. You can see this data is there, but it's actually static right now. And so open up I'm using just straight up Visual Studio for my simulator. Judge me all you want. I use code as well. I like them both.
Yep.
But so, all right, I've got my simulator running. Here are my wind turbine data's coming through.
Awesome. So there's your simulator ready to
go. Press the key to get the data flowing. All right, data's starting to go, starting to come through. You might see there we go. I'm seeing some. Yep.
Cool. So that data is coming from those IoT devices. It's coming through to that hub. It's being told Azure Digital Twins is being exposed and showing a lot of this data. It's being contextualized. It's being given a turbine ID and a bunch of other great helpful information from Digital Twins. Digital Twins is telling SignalR via event grid and a function. These are the latest telemetry updates, and now we have this HoloLens application listening to that in real time and showing the telemetry from down here.
Yeah. So now we can see our data, but let's make sure we take action on our data. So if you remember, press spacebar to simulate an event is happening somewhere on our wind turbine.
All right, so we're going to break a wind turbine. There it is.
Yes. I have now broken a wind turbine. Let's wait for the data to flow through. Oh, good, made it. Doing it live, you always wonder, am I going to actually successfully do this?
And this is very much live, so anything.
You have two options to get to this turbine. You can click on it here, and it will center it. Or if you're just in the middle of it on your wind farm, checking it out, and this thing turns yellow, you're just like, oh man, what's going on here? I'm just gonna click on this windmill. Well, I say that. Why isn't it? There we go. So now I've clicked on my windmill. It's yellow. It's moving slow. This isn't good. I love this animation. It's just like a slow.
Get zoom in real close. I want to see it really close. Yeah, really.
Oh, poor guy.
Right from the bottom. Not looking good.
It's a slow day on the wind farm for. Anyway, yes. So we want to send a reset command to our Mr. Turbine here. All right, command has been sent. Great. That's satisfying to know. That's actually the end of the learn path. That lets us know that everything is better and we did it. The windmill's not yellow anymore. And there he goes. He's up to speed. She is up to speed. This is any kind of turbine you want. There they go. Spinning up. Everything's happy again. If you really wanted to dig in this data, you would find the place where it went back to working fine.
So and what happened there was the Unity, the application, the mixed reality application, it talked to Digital Twins and it cleared a flag on Digital Twins. So this application as well is able to query Digital Twins directly. So it's receiving this telemetry from SignalR, but nothing is stopping it from making REST calls against Digital Twins itself to grab things like properties or information or status. In this example, we told Digital Twins to change the status. It changed the status. And then once we clear the alert, we're telling Digital Twins to clear that status via the REST API. And it's using the application registration as the authentication authorization method to do that.
That's correct. Sorry, I got distracted playing with my recording windows here. Yes, so that's actually that's basically it. That's the full path to building this. Obviously, once you're here, you can go to build settings, build this out, choose your scene, whatever the scene is that you're putting in there. I'm doing the build scene, which is not any of these. So I'm actually gonna just like remove those, add my open scene, which is this one.
Okay.
Yeah, make sure I'm targeting HoloLens, ARM64, that 10.0.18 and change. And then I do a build configuration for release, build on the Windows platform. After that, in Visual Studio, I can build it as a package and load it onto my HoloLens.
Okay.
And
Cool.
then you can check it out. And then there you have it. You can walk around, and that's how I made the visualization you saw earlier in the video. I just put on my HoloLens, started my simulator, and went into my living room and recorded some footage.
So cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Let's see. So what we just did was we added the operator menu prefab to our Unity scene. We added the ADT connection prefab asset to our Unity scene and configured it for incoming data. Did the same thing for ADT turbine alert controller. We also loaded in Bing Maps. We also played around with that and got a little sidetracked, but that's totally fine. And it was great. I think maybe it's time to see who is paying attention during this. What do you think?
I think so. Although this kind of stuff is so cool, I think, it sells itself. It's so awesome. So let's see.
Do you want me to read this one again? I'll do it.
You like reading the questions? All right, I like answering them. So.
What approach is the most efficient means to create assets in Unity that connect to ADT? Is it A, create one asset in the scene and copy paste it so that all parameters are transferred to the copy? Is it B, develop a scriptable object to create assets at runtime based on a core prefab? Or is it C, drag and drop prefab assets into the scene? Questions coming up in chat, so check it out and let's see how these answers come in.
Yeah, for me, like A, as a developer, copy and paste doesn't seem like my style. Oh no, thank you. So I would hope that Unity has the ability to some kind of way that we can get around that or repeat us without repeating ourselves. So I don't feel like A is correct.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you on that one. And so actually, what's interesting is with C, like dragging and dropping prefab assets into the scene, we did a decent amount of that today because we have these bundles that will help you get going with this.
Right.
But that's not technically like the same thing as connecting to ADT. That's just getting yourself set up to connect to ADT.
Okay. But I do remember when you kind of went drop down and you filled in those files there. That way, we talked about at the start that we could use these scriptable objects to like create these assets. So I feeling B. I'm feeling B.
We know what's interesting is it actually is B. You are correct, sir. And so is 59% of our audience. They also think it is B.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well done, everyone. Really, really happy you're able to figure that out. So that's basically what we came here to show you today. Kind of a quick. Wait, why did it go back? Oh, I hit the wrong arrow. My bad.
That's the wrong AD key.
Yes. Quick summary of kind of what we did today. We used Azure Digital Twins, ARM templates, and the Bicep language to deploy our IoT data pipeline. We used the Maps SDK to provide the location of our data, no matter where in the world it could be. And we use Unity to build a rich, responsive experience for interacting with our data, heads up and hands-free on HoloLens 2. We have now officially taken our first step into leveraging Microsoft's metaverse stack with our lovely little wind farm digital twin island here. Now, I like to imagine like, this is great. I love doing this experience. I would love to do it with like real-time collaboration. So, one day when I can add Microsoft Mesh to be, that would be pretty fantastic. And we could both just hop in here and hang out on Digital Twin Island. Really appreciate everyone, giving us your time today and let us show you what we're working on. Really excited to see what you guys can do with this, what you guys want to build in the future. If you go ahead.
I was going to say, just on that, like this is very much like an environment to begin with, right, Brent?
Yeah. It's a great, if you're going to get started, if you're new to mixed reality at all, Like this is, even if you're not using digital twins, going through this, you'll learn a lot about how to set yourself up to do a lot of things inside of Unity for mixed reality and also for connecting with Azure.
Yeah. There's also one really great question that came in from Paul that I'd really love to answer. And Paul M asks, is storing the client secret in the scriptable object the recommended approach for storing credentials? So in the real world, the answer to that, I'm sure, is, Paul, is generally no. You would use the identity of the user, like Brent would log in and Brent would talk as the identity to digital twins. However, because this is a learn module, and authentication is almost like its own learn module unto itself on HoloLens. We made the conscious decision to more or less focus on the flow of IoT data and the way things connect together rather than the authentication authorization experience on HoloLens. However, if you're interested in that, please let us know. I'd love to build a great experience showing good authentication authorization and how an identity such as Brent or myself would log on and then talk to digital twins. That would be awesome. So if you're interested in that kind of content, we have feedback available and we'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you. But to kind of bring it back to this demo, because we wanted to focus more on the way things connect rather than on kind of authentication authorization, we made a conscious decision to kind of do it that way. It's a lot simpler for people to consume.
Totally. And there's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because in June, I don't remember the date exactly off the top of my head, but there's like a 5-part series on identity coming up through like Learn
yes.
Live TV. I'm gonna show a slide for Learn Live TV in a little bit to show you how to get there. But yeah, definitely a great way to be able to go see that. If you want to learn more about what we've done here today, wait, let me get back to my slides and click. There we go. Yes. So this learn path is here. You can go to aka.ms learn mr-adt unity to just check it out. If you want to join our mixed reality developer program to keep your finger on the button of like what's coming with mixed reality, or you just want to know how to get started and meet friends and make connections, aka.ms/I want MR. And if you have questions like, that go beyond this Learn tutorial, you're more than welcome to check out, especially like with stuff around MRTK, the Mixed Reality Toolkit. You should go explore the Mixed Reality documentation at aka.ms/MR docs. Yeah. And so this is our Learn module. It's a part of a giant Learn path. This is a link that you can click. I don't know if you can click it inside this video or not. Please try. Let us know. If you can't, you can always just type it in your browser. If you click this link, it should take you to our Learn module so that you can get started and just dive in and get your digital twin up and going.
Yeah. And again, like we mentioned before, this is a sandbox. If you want to change things, mess with things, this is a great place to start. You can revert back to the original copy. You can say, I would like to simulate my house by my temperature, my all kinds of things using this model and the way to stream data through. It doesn't have to be a wind turbine. This is just a great place to get started with this. So once you're done with this, think about it that way and go, what can I do to extend this? Where can I take this? Can I put auth in front of it? Can I, use mesh like Brent was talking about? All kinds of cool things that can be done from this starting point.
Yeah, we got a question on that too. I'm going to get to it in 1 second, just because I want to finish plugging our Learn Live friends here. Join us weekly on Learn TV at aka.ms/Learn Live, where you can continue to see interesting videos like this. There's over like 2,000 topics already on Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Live Learn airs on every Monday. And yeah, come check out that 5-part series on identity to be able to do that correctly.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, let's see. So there's a question in the chat. Oh yeah, I was gonna say we did a poll. What integration would you like to see next? Where would you like to take this? And let's see. For Azure Remote Rendering, that one came in at 10%. Spatial Anchors, Azure Spatial Anchors, so being able to place this data anywhere in the world and have it live there, that came in at 22%. Mesh, that came in at 18%, right behind it. Would love people want to collaborate with it. And then 50% of the people just want all of them.
All of it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I agree. I would love if all of those things just worked inside of this digital twin metaverse.
Would,
That would be fantastic.
wouldn't it be like
Uh,
neat to walk into the field of like a of this wind turbine and then look up, and because spatial anchors are there, every turbine has a panel in front of it as you're looking around with your HoloLens on, and then you look
yeah,
across the field and there's Brent and he's there with me virtually in mesh. That would be
that would be
pretty
awesome.
magic.
I would love it too if I'm actually like you're in the field, a tiny person next to the windmill, and then I'm coming in as like a giant person like on top. I don't think that actually works, but it could be like Godzilla in the wind farm.
Right.
Here's a question that actually I want to know the answer to as well.
Oh,
From Doug. Seriously though, can someone tell me where to get Adam's hoodie? That is
I'm
an
not
awesome hoodie.
sure.
Yeah,
I
and
picked it up at some point. I
maybe have
will.
to,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't remember where I got it. There's also a question from Ralph, and I think this is worth elaborating on. I've
sure,
had a
yeah,
couple
go for
questions.
it.
Can you talk a little about what the reset command actually does? What does it communicate back to? So the reset command is there to show how you could interact with digital twins. Um, so there's a if we talked about the DTTL, the model before, in that model we have a boolean called properties, and it's just one or zero, yes or no for the most part. So what we're doing is we're just sending yes or no back. Like let's say in the real world a wind turbine has an error, it would send like an error code or a signal code like 102, and then that may flow through to the digital twin and then flick, oh, 102 has lit up, now it's the error. Maybe we do some kind of remote work and we acknowledge the error, or maybe we send a command that that maybe talks to the wind turbine directly somehow through IoT Hub. Maybe we send some kind of response to IoT Hub. However, what we're doing in this live in this demo or this module is we're just sending a REST call to Digital Twin to show you how you could talk from Digital Twin, from the HoloLens application to Digital Twin if you wanted to manipulate the Digital Twin data in any way from this direction. That's the main use case there that we're demonstrating. So if you look through the code, you'll see that that's what it's doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think that's actually about it for the time we have today. Yeah, I was hoping we'd have more time to play around, but just having a good time hanging out with all of you guys and gals and just going through everything here. This has been super fun.
I
Let's
think we could
see.
do one more question, maybe.
Yeah, it's can you look at that content through the phone somehow, mixed reality or rather augmented reality through the phone's camera, please? I imagine you. I will say this, Dan. I think you can. I think because you're using Unity, which is a pretty great like cross-platform development platform. I hate to say it twice. With AR Foundation, which supports ARKit and AR Core, and you could easily take this setup and then use Unity to deploy it and aim it for AR on a phone.
So there is a possibility that you could do this on a phone too.
And then one more, and then we should probably go. Any limitation to the number of IoTs integrated? That number is limited probably by your wallet. At a certain point, you will go above like the free tier of
Yeah.
data points you can send, and you will pay for them. But it's all like pretty relatively priced, to be honest, and so I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Yeah, it's going to be more on your Azure side, right? Like your IoT Hub is going to accept a certain amount of messages a day. Your functions are going to have to process messages, right? It's more on that side. Your digital twin is going to have a lot of REST calls to it. So, it will scale as you go, right? So depending on how many IoT devices you have and how much data you're sending through, it'll go, and SignalR will just send that data through. So there comes a certain point where you'd have to revisit how much data do you really care about before it gets to SignalR. Maybe you have to contextualize it better inside
Right.
digital twins or something. But yeah, if we were to put a million turbines, it would generally take it.
Well, and then how often you really like want to send that data and everything too. A lot of things you can set on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things with IoT in that scale. So yeah.
Awesome. I think that about wraps it up for us. Adam, this has been a pleasure working with you on this and presenting on this. I've had a great time.
Me too. Me too.
Thank you to our producers. Thank you to everyone in the chat. You know, look very much forward to working with all of you again. Thanks for your time and take care.